When he answered the phone call, he had a big smile on his face. He kind of already knew what time it was, kind of. And so I just let him know. I was like, hey, I don't want to waste any of your time, Just want to go ahead and just let you know that I'm ready to be a Seminole. And he was ecstatic, man. It was a great moment. He just let me know, he was proud of me, everything that was coming my way, I was deserving of. And it really meant a lot, coming from Coach Norvell. That's somebody that, I admire, that played a big role in, the reason why I wanted to come play for Florida State. And so, yeah, Coach Norvell, he's a great guy, man. So.
Hey, guys, it's Terrence Mann. You're listening to Hear the Spirit, presented by Noles Game Day. Go Noles.
Hey, what's up? This is Peter Ward, a.k.a. E-Dub, in the house. We're listening to Hear the Spirit, presented by Noles Game Day. Go Live, go Noles.
Hi, this is Charlie Ward, and you're listening to Hear the Spirit. Go Noles.
This is Terrell Buckley. You're listening to Hear the Spirit, presented by Noles Game Day. No Bloody.
But perhaps better known as the greatest corner to ever step on a football field, Deion Primetime Sanders.
Great Deion Sanders, my brother. What's going on, man? I could wake up to that greeting every day, man. That was awesome.
Hello, Noles fans. This is former Seminole Derek Brooks, and you're listening to Hear the Spirit, presented to you by Noles Game Day.
James Wilder Jr. What's going on, James?
Thanks for having me on. FSOD, Florida State or Die, and go Noles.
William Bar None Floyd.
Gentlemen, what's up?
What is happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from Hear the Spirit, presented to you by Noles Game Day. This time, it's not going to be a regular introduction. This time, we're going to have a very big-time special guest with us this evening. Man, I'm excited about this. Dustin's been able to interview him a few times, and he said we should have something fun to look forward to this evening, and I'm excited. So we got 4-star quarterback commit Chris Parson out of the 2023 class. Chris, happy to have you. What's going on, man?
Yes, sir. Happy to be here. Not much, man. Just soaking everything in. It's been a great few couple of days. After the commitment and things like that. So I'm just a blessed individual, and yeah, it's just been great, man. I've just been just embracing it all. Just getting ready for the season. So yeah.
We were talking about it earlier, but I really feel bad for your phone, Chris, the last couple of weeks. I'm sure it's been just blowing up, mainly 90% from Dustin Lewis up here. So, we feel the same pain. It happens to us, too, quite a bit. But how has that whole kind of feeling been? We'll kind of jump into it. But, how has your summer been? How, the coaches also after you from other colleges, how has that whole experience before you committed? How was that whole experience for someone that might not know that kind of realm of how that goes?
Yeah, so it was a lot, it was a lot, especially in the month of June. But I was talking to a few people, and then I was just letting them know, like, I guess this is like a good problem to have, for somebody in my position. So, like I said, I'm just a blessed individual, man. June was a really big month for me, especially, being able to get back on campuses and get to throw in front of some of these schools, and then also, get to visit these schools and get a feel for them and things like that. So, June was pretty big for me. And, once June ended, I kind of, I already knew where I wanted to go. I already knew the place I had in mind, which was, of course, FSU. And, I decided to commit on my birthday. And now, now that I got that out the way and I'm locked in all on the Seminoles, now it's just time, to get ready for this season. First game was on August 20th. And, my guys, my teammates, and we're replacing that ring. We're going for 15-0 this year. So, yeah.
And yeah, going to the day of your commitment, I remember you told me you got a chance to let Coach Norvell and Coach Dillingham know about your decision before you announced it publicly. Mm-hmm. So just what was their reaction and how did those conversations go?
Yeah, so that morning on the 22nd, I called Coach Norvell on my way to practice, and he had a little time in between his interviews at ACC Media Day. So I had called him, he answered, and I had told him a few days before, I was like, whatever school I'm going to, I'm going to call him that morning and let him know, before I post anything. So when he answered the phone call, he had a big smile on his face. He kind of already knew what time it was, kind of. And so I just let him know. I was like, hey, I don't want to waste any of your time, Just want to go ahead and just let you know that I'm ready to be a Seminole. And he was ecstatic, man. It was a great moment. He just let me know, he was proud of me, everything that was coming my way, I was deserving of. And that really meant a lot, coming from Coach Norvell. That's somebody that, I admire, that played a big role in, the reason why I wanted to come play for Florida State. And so, yeah, Coach Norvell, he's a great guy, man. So It was just a great day and all, especially, letting him know beforehand and then getting to talk to Coach Dillingham as well. So, yeah, that was just a great moment. That was something I'll never forget, So, yeah.
Can you walk us through kind of how the recruitment kind of started? Because it picked up steam real quick, really, really quick. We talked about on our last podcast about how like you popped up on the radar and it became pretty clear you were the number one target for your class really quick. Can you just walk us through how, with Florida State that, you kind of knew you were their guy?
Yes, sir. So, as far as Florida State, Coach Dillingham, Coach Norvell, I had started building a relationship with them back when I transferred to Ravenwood in January. Coach Dillingham actually told me, first time we hopped on the phone, he was like, he had saw, some film of me back, when I was in Texas before I moved. And he was like, there's no way we'll be able to get a guy like him, to come to Florida State and things like that. He figured I'd be like a Texas home guy. And I was quick to let him know that, Florida State was my dream school growing up. I've always been an FSU fan. And, he was surprised, because he thought I was a Texas guy. But, in all honesty, I grew up watching Florida State football. That's how I was brought up. So, after that, we just kept building a relationship. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I remember it. Tuesdays, 7 o'clock. Thursdays, 7 o'clock. We'll FaceTime, hop on the phone. I'll talk to Coach Norvell. And we just kept building this relationship. And then, June started to heat up for me as far as camps and things like that. I got to, throw for a couple schools. And it just started to shoot through the roof for me. I was getting offers like 3 offers in like a 4-day span. And so FSU ended up offering me on the 10th. And that was a pretty big day for me. And so because that day, actually, I was at Auburn. I had went to the Auburn camp that day. And I had a pretty solid day, in my opinion. And they still didn't offer me. So I was kind of like ticked off about that. And so I'm in the car. I'm in a bad mood. I'm all like frustrated. I'm in the car. And I'm like, man, I just went out there and I killed them. They still didn't offer me. So I was like confused. So one of my coaches from Red Oak back in Texas, he has a pretty good relationship with Coach Thompson, tight ends coach. So he had called my dad. He was like, tell CP to call Coach Dillingham. So we called Coach Dillingham. We hopped on the phone, and they had extended the offer. So that was big for my family, and especially with Buck, our whole family was FSU fans growing up, and to see this coming full circle now, it's just great. It just feels kind of surreal, So. Yeah.
So I got to follow that up. You mentioned it. So what does FSU got to do to get him over into Tallahassee to be that DB coach or be part of that staff?
Man, I don't know, man. You might have to take that up with Coach Norvell.
Yeah.
I know the DB coach there now, Coach Woodson.
Woodson's great.
Yeah, he's great.
I love to see T-Buck back in Tallahassee.
Yeah. Coach Woodson, him and my dad, they actually go back as well. They grew up together as well in Mississippi. So it's kind of like a big old family tree, kind of, I guess you could say. So, but yeah, Buck, man, that's my guy. He showed me a lot of love, way before I even had an FSU offer. He always stayed in touch with my dad, through Facebook and things like that. And I actually got to talk to him a little bit in June whenever I was at the Tennessee State University camp. Ole Miss, they were one of the schools that they came down to watch me throw as well. And I got to spend time with him and just chill with him. And so it was just great. That's family. So it was great talking to him, getting words of advice from him, especially, with him being an FSU legend and also playing in the league, winning the Super Bowl and things like that. So, yeah.
He's a legend, man.
No doubt.
Yeah, we've had Buckley on here. We've had Buckley on here. And we talked a little bit. We actually we dove right into it and talked about, you've been visiting Florida State a little bit. You're here, scouting some kids in the area, and we've talked a little bit about it. And I'd love to see Buckley here in Tallahassee. And it's funny you were mentioning that you've been a FSU fan, because I went back. I was able to do my own confirmation on it, but went down in 2016. One of your first posts, or one that's either your oldest one, is you, I believe, at the Michigan game at the Orange Bowl against them, which was a fun one to be at.
Yeah, that was I was in 6th grade, and that was back when DeAndre Francois. That was back when he was starting the QB. And, DeAndre, we actually are really, really close. Like, that's like a big brother to me. I met him when I went to the camp the year before, And I was just I was a fan at the time. Just DeAndre, can I get a picture? Things like that. And wherever he went, I went. And then throughout the year, I just I'd be on Instagram. I'd shoot him a DM, just hoping he would answer. And luckily, like one weekend after a game, he did answer. And so I tried not to bother him too much. But after a while, him and I just kept building a relationship and things like that. I'll send him some highlights of mine, and he'll give me some feedback. And so him and I, we've been in touch, constantly ever since like my 8th grade year. And so I had actually let him know like 2 days before I committed, like on the 20th, that I was coming to FSU, and he was happy about that. So yeah, man, I remember that game like it was yesterday. In Miami, whole family there, and I remember sitting next to some Michigan fans, and I remember like in the first half, DeAndre Francois, he threw a bomb to Naquan Murray Nooney, and I remember Nooney switching fields and running like straight towards my brother and I in the end zone, dropping the ball, putting his hands in the air. Man, I remember all that, man. I remember Dalvin going off that game. And that was a nail biter, man. That was a classic right there in itself. And I remember it like it was yesterday, man. I was so happy FSU got that win, man, in that Orange Bowl, and then winning in Miami. So that was pretty cool as well. So
absolutely, yeah. Dalvin Cook's a different animal. We have a thing on here later on the docket, and later in the episode, talking about how Madden has put him at the number 4 quarterback running back, I should say, running back on the Madden list. Absolutely atrocious, in my opinion. Nick Chubb above him. Nick Chubb. What are we doing, Madden?
No way.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
Nah, no way. Not above Dalvin. No way.
McCaffrey plays a few games a season, has some highlights there, but Dalvin has a great season last year, and somehow McCaffrey's number 1. Yeah, that's a whole other discussion. But going back to you though, Chris, I want to talk about your family and how excited they were. Tell us about that whole process that was with them. They were able to go visit a few times with other schools too, and how happy were they on that day for you?
Man, it was like I said, it was a great day for my family and I. Even back when I was a kid coming to the Florida State football camp, I remember my dad would post videos of me at the camp on Facebook, and my whole family would be commenting under, hopefully he could be in the FSU uniform one day and things like that. So it's kind of crazy how it's all came in a full circle. And, I just, whenever I think about family and things like that, especially with FSU, I just think about my visit, arriving there. I remember it was like a rainy day, and we pulled up, and then we saw the whole entire coaching staff just waiting on me out there. I was blown away. Like, I couldn't believe it. It was just so awesome to me. And I remember Coach Norvell coming up to the car and introducing himself to the family, and then we ended up driving back around. They had sent somebody to come get us on the golf cart so we can get a good parking spot so we wouldn't get towed. And they came back around, man. They all just embraced me, man. And I knew then, I was like, man, this is a different type of place. And it was just a special moment. I was glad somebody got it on video, because that's something I'll never forget, man. So, yeah, that was just an awesome moment right there, And then the whole entire day, just being around the guys, talking to Jordan Travis. He's a cool guy. Him and I, we've still been in touch. Him and I, we were texting back and forth even after the visit and things like that. And he showed a lot of love, the day I commented on a few posts and things like that. So, that was also a really big thing that played a part in me committing to FSU. It's just the family atmosphere. Like I said before, FSU, me being down there, I could already tell that was a home away from home for me. And I have family in Mississippi. I have family in Florida. I have an auntie who lives in Thomasville, so that's right there where Charlie Ward was growing up at. So that's nothing, as far as the distance, to Tallahassee. So it just felt like family, man. And I knew I was going to be somewhere where, I was going to be able to thrive. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And just continuing to talk about that visit you took to Florida State in June, what were some of the highlights of getting to sit down with Coach Norvell and Coach Dillingham and getting to talk about your fit in the offense and just how much of a priority you were for them in that Tribe 23 class?
Yeah, so speaking on the priority, Coach Norvell, he let me know. They even let me know even before I visited, that I was their number 1 guy, and I could tell, him and I talking on the phone twice a week. They were the only school that did that. All the other schools, we'll talk once a week, once every 2 weeks, and things like that. But with Coach Dillingham and Coach Norvell, it was always consistent. We had a specific time I set my alarm for like 6:58. So it's 7 o'clock. I'm calling. We hop on the phone. We'll chop it up, even if it's just a 5-minute conversation. Just us just talking and just staying consistent. I could tell that this was a really important relationship to them, just as it was to me. And one of the highlights whenever I was down there on the visit was watching film with Coach Dillingham, seeing their offense, seeing what Coach Norvell ran back at Memphis, and it's an offense that fits me. Most of the things that they run at Florida State, I've ran throughout my high school career. Even being back at Texas and now here at Ravenwood, so it fits me perfectly. It's an offense that if I could draw offense up for myself, this is the type of offense that it would be. So it was just a perfect match. Coach Dillingham, he let me know. He was like, I'm their number one guy. They're my dream school. So it was just a perfect match and all, man. And just being down there with Coach Norvell and him talking to my family, being in his office, it was just a different type of vibe, man. And I knew this was it. I knew this was home. So yeah.
There was a lot of people and a lot of the recruits that we've talked to have told us that there's just a different kind of energy that this staff brings in other schools. And is that right? Is that what you kind of felt too, Chris?
Yeah, no doubt. I can co-sign on that for sure.
Yeah. What does that energy mean to, like, what is it, just them being with you nonstop? From what Nate has heard and Dustin heard, they're with you nonstop. Always there's someone with you, and it's just continuous. It's not just like there's a few times where you're just kind of chilling, which I'm sure maybe, but just seems like they're on you nonstop.
Yeah, it's like it's genuine. That's what sets it apart. Like, yeah, they're like recruiting, but at the same time, it's genuine. And it's real love. I can name a few places. I'm not gonna say any names, but like, it's some schools I went to, it just didn't feel genuine. It felt like, oh, FSU did this. Well, let's try to do this. Like, it just didn't feel the same, And being at FSU, I can just think back, whenever I was having a little photo shoot, the whole staff was in there for my photo shoot. They had the music playing. They were playing Chris Cross from like the 90s, warming up Chris. And, I can just remember all that, my family, the smile they had on their faces. And so, yeah, it's just genuine, man. Like, it's like I said, it's real family. Like, I remember a time I was on a golf cart with Coach Dillingham. We were touring the campus, and Jordan Travis had called him, and he was like, I know we're on this visit right now, but I got to answer this, He was like, players trump over recruits. And so when I thought about that, I was like, man, that's big, because, if I was Jordan in that situation and I'm calling Coach, I want him to answer that phone, So that just shows how important family is, Recruits, there's no guarantee that they're going to come to their school. You know what I mean? There was no guarantee at the time that I was going to go to FSU, but it's a guarantee that, the school is going to have to depend on Jordan next year to make some plays and help win some games. So I feel like that was really important. And it was just little things like that throughout the visit that I noticed over time. And I was like, yeah, this is a different type of spot, man. This is somewhere I want to be. So, yeah.
So what kind of quarterback are you? And by that, I mean, your highlights are, show a lot of athleticism. You got, a lot of arm talent for being a kid that's still, maturing on the high school level. But, how would you describe your game?
I would describe myself as a very intelligent quarterback. I'm a student of the game. I love watching film. I love, getting the feel for defenses, just preparing for them throughout the week. I'm always learning, trying to learn, just picking people's brains, offensive minds and things like that. As far as on the field, I have great arm talent. I feel like I can make all the throws. And I love getting the ball in my receivers' hands. And, that's something that's really big when it comes to Florida State. They're known for having great receivers throughout the years. And, I can also, I can improvise and use my legs when needed. And so, like I saw somebody in the chat put Deshaun Watson, it's something very similar.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. Deshaun Watson, he's actually, that's my favorite quarterback, So I study his game a lot. Aaron Rodgers as well, and Russell Wilson. So, yeah,
some good quarterbacks, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. But yeah, just like those guys, I can use my legs when needed, but I love delivering the ball. A lot of people throughout the years, they question my arm talent, but I I was actually glad, everything opened back up in June so I could go show these folks. And so I turned most of them into believers, and they tried their best, recruit me later on because once they found out, but it was kind of too late, man. I was locked in on the Seminoles, so.
So what's your current height? Because we talked a little bit about that too. Is like there's some debate on how tall you are. Some services have you just 6 feet. Can you address that?
Yeah, most people, when they say their height, they'll give like a generic 6 foot answer, but I'm actually 6'1.5", and so I'm 6 foot and a half. Right now I'm weighing around 193, 192. Last year my playing weight was 190, so I'm looking to shed these last 2 pounds, maybe even 5 before August 20th. So, but yeah, as far as height, I'm 6'1.5", no shoes on. I put my Air Maxes on. I'm probably like 6'1". So. Yeah.
Looking back at this throw, I mean, how did it feel after this, just from your perspective of getting this one and seeing the ref put up both his arms for a touchdown? I mean,
yeah. So it's a crazy story behind this play. So as I'm getting the call and I'm telling the O-line the protection, I look down at my hands and I'm like, my hands are super sweaty. So I'm looking for my towel, and actually you can't see it, but back when we were starting to drive off, like on the other 25, my towel was down there, so I can't go down there to go get my towel. So I'm looking at my teammate, I'm looking at the lineman trying to see if any of them have a towel, and no one has a towel. So I'm like, man, I'm just gonna have to just thug this one out. So
yeah,
I'm just trying to not think of. I'm looking at the coverage pre-snap, and we had ran this concept a few times throughout the game, and you see this delayed bang. Big type that was coming open most of the time, but I caught the safety slipping. I just moved around in the pocket. I felt some pressure. I just wanted to make sure I had a clear shot, and I knew I just had to throw it to a spot. Raymond Gay, he's actually at Oklahoma State now. He's a talented receiver. He's actually playing DB now, but yeah, he's a freak athlete, man. So I knew if I just gave him a chance to just put the ball in the right spot, he was gonna make a play, and he made a great catch. He actually got both feet in, falling out of bounds. So. Yeah, that was one of my best throws from last year. I'm looking forward to making more like that this year.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that stands out to me. I've been doing this for a while. I'm a little bit older than the other guys on this podcast, but one thing that really is for sure that pops out is your ability to throw the ball.
Yes, sir.
Like you make some really damn good throws.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Is that being coached up? How you get there? Because I see you like to throw a little bit of weight around too, right?
Yeah.
The weight room a little bit.
Yeah. So my freshman year, I was really big on lifting, but now at my school in Raywood, they kind of have like a weight plan for me. So now I'm doing more explosion type, not like bodybuilding, sumo wrestler type. So I can definitely feel a change in my body. I feel more explosive now, and so but as far as throwing. I've always had like a really strong arm, like even in the little league, like I was throwing the ball like 40, 45 yards whenever I was in like second grade. And so people always thought it was like, man, he just has a big arm. But over time, I worked with, my dad and I used to fly out to San Diego. I used to get working with George Whitfield. Yeah, so I was working with George in like 7th grade. Him and I, we got a really good relationship. I've been working with him ever since. I didn't get a chance to work with him last offseason due to COVID. So I actually put some work in back in Dallas. I have a mechanics coach in Trenton Kirkland. He's one of Tom House's guys. He learned from under Tom House, who trains Brady and Drew Brees. And so it's a lot of things that I work on. And recently, since I've been in Nashville, every now and then, a couple weekends throughout the year, I head down to Atlanta and work with Ron Veal. He trained Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields whenever they were in high school in Georgia, in the Atlanta area. So I've been blessed to be around some great guys, who can teach quarterbacking, and it's just constant work, man. I haven't always been the precise passer, So I've just been working. That's pretty much just been putting in work. I've always had a strong arm, but bringing it all together, just making off schedule throws. That's something that I work on a lot. Off platform throws, a lot of people look at Pat Mahomes. You got guys like Tony Romo who did similar things. Matthew Stafford, he's really good at that as well. Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, there's so many guys, I look at, study, who can, make throws.
There's an art to being able to place it while, having the strength to get it there.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't think a lot of people really understand, how difficult it can be sometimes, having to deliver a ball while you, getting pounded, and then also having like a hand in your face or somebody touching your shoulder and things like that. So, one of the main things, I had to, get used to was being comfortable, being uncomfortable. And that was something that I was taught a lot, growing up and things like that. So that's helped me a lot. Very rarely will you ever get a play that's just like picture perfect whenever you're on the field. Something's always going to be off, whether it's protection, the guy getting through, somebody's time is messed up on a route because they got bumped by a backer or something like that. So it's never really going to be a perfect play. You might get one maybe 3 times out of a whole entire game. And so, it's just all about improvising and not making a bad play worse. And, just, making the most of every situation, getting your team out of jams and making things happen.
I was going to ask you, Chris, what really sold you? I mean, we know the staff, they did a great job, but what is your thoughts about Tallahassee as a whole? I'm unsure if, the staff took you around a little bit to see Tallahassee, but, tell us a little bit about your thoughts about eventually you'll be living here for, depends on the amount of years, but, you're going to be around Tallahassee, and it's definitely a football school. I've lived here my entire life. It's definitely football crazy. It's starting to warm up now. Dustin knows the same thing, and, Austin was here for school. But it is this town is all about 100% football, and now it's turned a little bit to basketball. Austin, I'll give you that. Basketball's been doing good, but football is what really gets this town going. But tell us a little bit about Tallahassee.
Yeah, no doubt. So, it was a lot, that went into the recruiting process. Just thinking about where I wanted to be as far as home. And one, I wanted to play, at a college that was like a college town. And so when you think of Tallahassee definitely has that. And then, also thinking about, the weather. It's great weather in Florida. Some guys, they might live, like me being in Texas, they might go somewhere, up north in the Big Ten, freeze their balls off. So I knew Tallahassee was going to have good weather. So it was a lot to play the factor, also like the family and things like that, and also as far as like education, I want to be a broadcast journalist. I want to be a guy kind of like Shannon Sharp, Stephen A. Smith, or ESPN or something like that. When my football career is over with, and FSU has a great journalism school, so that was right up my alley. I've also had thoughts, of stepping outside the box and maybe directing some films and things like that, because I like watching movies, and I'm always coming up with scenarios in my head. I guess it's kind of helped me a little bit in football whenever it comes to, drawing up plays and things like that, especially, looking at defenses. So it all just came together, man. That was just a fit right there. So I like the town, just driving around Tallahassee, just the campus, in general, just looking at the walls and things like that, all the, statues and stuff, just Seminole, just everything about it, the Garden and Gold, everything just, I loved everything about it, man. It just checked all the boxes for me. And so that was it for me.
Absolutely. We'll let you answer this one. This is from Eric, our guy that's always on here listening. What's your favorite NFL team?
Favorite NFL team. So, me, I don't really have a favorite NFL team. I'll just end up cheering for you for like my favorite like quarterbacks. Say so. I don't know the situation with Deshaun right now. I don't think he's going to be a Texan, much longer probably. So. I don't know. We'll see what happens with his situation. But, with Aaron Rodgers, it looks like he's going to be playing with the Packers this year. So, I'll be watching a few Packers games. I love Tom Brady as well. So, I'll be tuned in on the Bucs, Russell Wilson with the Seahawks. And so, but, yeah, I like to go for my favorite quarterbacks. Growing up, my whole family was, Cowboys fans. And, they used to let the whole entire family down. So, I kind of got off that train.
Yeah, you're not
wrong.
You
know how Cowboy fans are, man. This is the year we're going to the Super Bowl this year, and they end up going like 8-8. So yeah. So I couldn't buy in on the Cowboys. So I just started going for my favorite players, and hopefully one day whatever teams draft me, so that'll be my favorite team then for sure. So
I got to ask this question. A lot of recruits I talk to, I ask this question. You look at Florida State and look at the past few years, and they really haven't been, the Florida State that we're accustomed to.
Right.
Struggled on the field. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you look at that, knowing that they are in a rebuild, working to get back to that elite status? Some recruits, it's a turnoff. They don't want to play for or work for that.
Right.
So how do you look at that, knowing that they want to get back to that top tier program?
Yeah, exactly. So when you think about it, Coach Norvell last year, was a COVID year. Mm-hmm. And then when you also look at the team last year, a lot of guys on the team were young that were starting last year. I don't think many people, realize that a lot of freshmen started last year. So you just think about it, by the time I get to campus, those guys are going to be juniors and seniors. So it's going to be a whole lot of experience on the field then. Mm-hmm. And, Coach, I believe, that's pretty much it. I believe. Mm-hmm. I know Coach Norvell is going to turn this thing around. If I didn't believe in, their plan, I wouldn't have committed here.
Right.
So, and I also, if I didn't believe, I wouldn't be trying to get guys, to come join me. So I know what, the picture that I have in my head when it comes to Florida State football. I think of Jameis Winston being there and the score being like 42-6 at halftime and, things like that. So, I know where Florida State football can go. I know how, the fan base is. And, college football is just better when Florida State's on top. And so this 2022 class, they definitely set it off. We're planning to do the same thing with the 2023 class. So, like I said, I believe. And, last year was a down year, COVID year. But I definitely believe they're going to bounce back this year and, shock a lot of people and turn some heads. And then, it's just going to keep on rolling. Once the 2022 class gets in, 23 class, I've been in touch with some 24 guys. So we're looking forward to making this thing like a dynasty again, man. So, I believe in everything, that they have, laid out. Coach Norvell, he showed me the plan. He showed me what they were all about. And I'm locked in.
I was going to ask you just the last few questions here for you so we don't keep you on here too long. But I was going to ask you, what does your recruiting look like for you? Because we look at some of the guys in the 2022 class, and once they committed, they're already after. They put on the recruiting cap, like a guy like Rashawn Sapp, and they're already after a few guys. How is that looking for you? Are you working are you networking? You finding some connections? Yeah. How's that working in their 2023 class? Because there's not a lot of you right now, but you're going to be a bell cow to build it.
No doubt. So that was something that Coach Norvell and I talked about, back, even before I committed. He was like, if you end up committing to Florida State, you're going to have the opportunity to build your own tribe. Tribe 23, that's going to be all you, especially with you being a quarterback and committing early. That'll sign off on a lot of guys, because, some guys, they'll commit late at the quarterback position. And the guys that they have committed to school, they're not really their guys. You know what I mean? It's just like they're just joining a group. But, with me, I plan on hitting up guys. I'll get my phone right now. I've been in contact with Jaylen Brown. He was just down there in Tallahassee. Him and I have been chopping it up. Santana Fleming, that's my guy. I've been texting him on a regular basis. Ty Lockwood here, Tennessee, big tight end. A1 hands. I've had guys, on my team here at Ravenwood who've played against him. They've said over the past 4 years, they've never seen him drop a ball or something like that. So we have to play him this year as well. So that's gonna be a pretty good game. Hopefully he doesn't do us in or anything like that. We're looking to win, but he's a dog for sure. And Daquan White, it's so many guys. I've been hitting up. I put this recruiting hat on, and I'm just giving them that pitch, man. Just letting them know, man. I didn't commit this early for no reason. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's a reason why I did this. This was home, and I know we can build something special, no doubt. So yeah.
And I think I've got one more. So we've talked about how much the coaching staff made you a priority, but also current guys and some guys in Tribe 22 were also after you. And you mentioned your relationship a little bit with Jordan Travis, but you've also spoken to Jarian Jones, and for that Tribe 22 class, Kashawn Sapp was on you pretty hard, and you've talked a little bit with Travis Hunter and AJ Duffy. So can you talk a little bit about how much that had an effect on you?
Yeah, that had a big effect as well. My guy Sapp, him and I, ever since my visit, he had hit me up on Instagram, and he had just been on me hard, man. Like, we need you, bro. We want you to join this family, and so it was pretty cool. After I committed, and he hit me up because he had been on me heavy, and Jarrell Powers, him and I, we played together my freshman year, his sophomore year, and so we've been locked in. We've been really good friends ever since, and so it'll definitely be fun, being able to throw to him again, at the tight end position. And Jerry and Jones, with my family being from Mississippi, whenever we were on the visit, we just hit it right off the bat. That's my guy. We had been talking, constantly as well. Same with Jordan. He gave me a lot of feedback and things like that, and just let me know, what it was like, being at FSU. He's been at another program before, so he kind of gave me like the compare and contrast of what's different here at FSU and why this was the spot for me. And it just all fell in the right spot, man. AJ Duffy showed love, whenever I committed. Travis had hit me up as well. So it's a lot of guys, man, who just showed a lot of love, man. It's a great feeling, you join a family and they treat you like family. So it's been great, man. So I'm looking forward to me, this year and next year, doing the same thing to guys, letting them know how FSU is and what we're all about, and doing the same thing whenever I'm actually putting on that FSU Seminole uniform, playing on Saturdays.
Absolutely. One last thing from me. Or go ahead, Nate.
No, I don't have a question. I was going to say, man, just keep grinding, man. It sounds like you got a really good head on your shoulders, man. It sounds like you're really focused, and it's what Florida State needs. At the most important position.
Yes, sir.
They need that leadership and that those guys who are driven to be great. So,
right.
Keep pushing for that, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Before we end off, I was going to say, Chris, what are you kind of working on heading into your season this year? What are you looking to improve on? Maybe some things that you've been working on maybe this off season that you're looking forward to showing this season?
Yeah. So, I got the Ravenwood in January, and the receivers and I, we just put in a lot of work, and this summer was pretty big for us. May was big for us. June, a lot of the guys, we had visits and things like that, so we weren't really with each other as much as I wish we could have been. But July, since things were shut down at the beginning of July, we hopped right back on it. Just building chemistry, time, and things like that. And it's all coming along, pretty well. They're starting to get a feel for me. We're starting to all get a feel for each other, like, just as far as, being on the field with each other, knowing how to break off routes. They kind of know my, body language when it comes to me getting outside the pocket. And it's just all coming together, man. I'm loving it here at Ravenwood. Great coaching staff. I love all my teammates, We just got back from camp a few days ago. That was something that I'll never forget, being in the woods. I'm not a woods camper type of guy, but if it wasn't for my teammates, I probably would have went insane out there. But it was great, being with them, and it reminds me a lot of FSU football, man. Family type atmosphere, my teammates and I. So it's great. We just been building chemistry, strength and conditioning. We've been lifting and things like that, running. We'll have like 7-on-7 and team periods and things like that. But as far as individually, I just, been tightening up my mechanics and things like that, just constantly getting better, just finding ways I can get better, watching film on the teams that we're going to be playing this year, watching film on Ravenwood from last year, just tighten up, getting the playbook down pat. It's just been great, teammates, the guys who've been here, before me, they've been helping me out a lot, and things like that. So it's just been great, man. We got a really good team this year. We got 2 games on ESPN. And so it'll be pretty exciting. Yeah, we got a Summit High School. They got a really good team here in Tennessee. And then we play Life Christian out of Virginia. They're coming down here as well. So both of those games will be on ESPN. We got one of the toughest schedules in the state of Tennessee. We start off the season August 20th against Montgomery Bell Academy. They got a pretty good team from what I've heard. So, we're looking to go 15-0. We've been working, like a 15-0 team. And that's our mindset. That's the model for us. We want to go out here. We want to dominate every game. We want to leave no question. We want to have a type of year, something that we can look back and be like, man, we did something special. And then, with the 2023 guys in my grade, we can look at this year and be like, man, we set the standard, for the guys younger than us. Let's go do it again next year, our senior year. So this is going to be a really big year for us. I'm excited, man. It's almost here. It's been long awaited, man. I remember I got here in January. I remember thinking like, man, this season is gonna be so long. We'll be waiting. Just everything, so much time. And then now, for it to finally, get here, it just shows how fast time flies. So, yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm ready to go. We got a scrimmage Friday. I'm going to treat it like it's a state championship game. So,
yep,
I'll definitely be ready, no doubt.
That's how you got to do it. Stay competitive, man. That mentality.
Yes,
it's 24/7. And I was just going to mention that a lot of FSU fans will be tuning in to those 2 games on ESPN, most certainly.
No doubt.
Yeah, I absolutely hope, wish you the best. Stay healthy, man, all of us from here. And we definitely appreciate you for coming on here almost like 45 minutes now, but definitely appreciate you. And I think the FSU fans will enjoy this.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
Appreciate
y'all for having me, man. I watched a few of y'all videos on YouTube, so it's kind of cool, finally being in one. So, yeah, man, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. Seminole Nation, I appreciate you guys too. All the love you guys shown me on Instagram and Twitter. So, yeah, it's all love over here, man. Thank you guys.
Where can they follow you on Instagram and Twitter?
So Twitter is C_Parson2 all together.
Okay.
And, you'll see my profile. I have a black and white picture of me, and also my header is Kobe Bryant. And then my Instagram is Chris Parson. But, the I in Chris is a 1, so it's CHR1SPARS0N all together. So, again, I had to make it unique.
That's a little more difficult.
Yeah. No doubt. But yeah, those are my social media accounts. So, yeah.
Awesome. Sweet deal, man. Maybe we'll be able to get you back on later on and to recap your season. Like I said, wish you and also your team the best, and we'll definitely stay in contact. Looking forward to watching those games too this year.
Yes, sir. No doubt. Thank you guys again. Appreciate y'all, man.
Yeah, Chris, really appreciate it. And, I told you 15 minutes. I'm sorry we had you.
It's my good, man. The longer the better, man. I enjoyed every minute of it, man. So this is really great, man. I'm looking forward to this too.
Yeah, Dustin, get ready. He'll be texting you tomorrow morning. How you doing? How you feeling? What's going on? Who you recruiting after? All right, Chris, be good, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all, man. Go Noles.
All right, go Noles, man.
Yes, sir. No doubt. Thank y'all.
What is your first initial thoughts, Nate, to you? Coming from a kid of 2023.
It seems very mature, first and foremost, I texted you guys in our little group chat, side chat that, I was super tight with EJ when he was going through the process, and he reminds me maturity wise, very, very mature and very, understands the process, understands what his place is and what he's got to do in order to just continue to get better, and what he wants to do when he gets to that next level. He's very even keeled, and one thing that Florida State hasn't had is that guy behind center that can be the guy the team can depend on. And we're seeing, we'll talk about it here when we do this preview, but we're seeing Norvell really evaluate that position and bring, guys in that can really lead a team. And you can tell that he can lead a team. And that's exciting to see, and just on top of everything, his arm talent is special. So good addition for the 23 class.
Absolutely. And this
I was saying, I told you guys, I've gotten a chance to talk with him a couple times, and he's an impressive young man. Like you said, Nate, he's wise beyond his years, very calculated, very smart, and he's a heck of a football player too. So, he's got all of the attributes on the field and off the field that Coach Norvell and the staff have been looking for. And, you've seen it with every player so far that has committed under this staff, from Tribe 22 to 23 to 24. They're making sure not only to get quality football players, but quality people in the program too. And I think that's going to be a big factor in turning this thing around.
Yeah, no, great head on his shoulders, and answered question. That's the thing that I'm starting to see a trend on with Mike Norvell and the recruits is, these guys really are, they're going to represent. He's looking ahead, and he knows that these guys are going to represent Florida State in a great fashion. And I love the answer for him saying, I didn't just commit to Florida State so early just to kind of sit back and relax. He's getting right after work recruiting. And, so there's some big names big targets that Florida State is after. You got 5-star Jalen Brown, and you've also got Fleming too. And, those are two 2023 guys Florida State is heavily going to be after. And, it's great to already have a quarterback in place there. And, it really.
Hey, you know what the cool thing is?
What's the cool thing?
It sounds like that he's going to break the streak. I
hope so.
The committed quarterbacks, that we've had on that.
Knock on wood, Nate.
Knock on wood,
Yeah, knock on wood. That is the case. Yeah, exactly. But let's move on here, guys. We got a few quick hitters. This is actually going to be.
Move on. I've never felt so old in my life.
No, I know.
When he said he was in 6th grade for the Michigan game.
Yeah, I know.
I'm 24. Yeah. I'm not that old. That was my sophomore year of college. That made me feel so old. Yeah. And it was 5 years ago? Doesn't even feel that long ago.
I know.
6th grade.
That was my first feeling of dang, I feel almost I wonder how Nate feels here.
He's used to that. I'm 24. I'm not used to that.
I had to mute myself. I was like, holy shit.
That's what I was saying. There's no way.
Oh man, goodness gracious. Yeah. Time's flying, man. Time's flying. But definitely thanks, Dustin, for getting that hooked up with Chris coming on. And I'm these interviews that we've had with these younger kids, and we can go ahead and say now we got Quashawn Sapp actually joining us next Thursday night at 8:30, which I think is going to be a big one. He's in that 2022 class that is trending upwards like crazy, who's after so many recruits. He was heavily after a few guys this last weekend, so he'll be on here with us too. So he's got a lot to talk about. Let's get into some quick hitters real quick, and they're actually going to be quick because we're doing the whole offensive breakdown tonight. Real quick, recruiting latest, Florida State lands through 3-star offensive tackle Daughtry Richardson, and also about 3 minutes later, practically 3 minutes, landed defensive tackle Daniel Lyons. Both guys now being down in Miami. Daughtry actually played here in Tallahassee at Godby for a little bit. But yeah, Florida State lands 2 guys out of that Miami area right now.
Lyons was needed because they haven't landed an interior nose tackle kind of prospect since True Thompson. So, getting a guy from the high school level, one of the better players in Florida at his position. It's a down year for tackle throughout the entire country, but this is still a really good player. Plays with a lot of energy. Again, another physical kid. So, plus, FSU goes 2-0 versus Manny over the weekend. So it's great to see.
Love it.
Yeah, and going to Daughtry, I mean, this one is just all Alex Atkins from the moment Florida State started recruiting him. Alex Atkins has led the charge here. And, in the end, I got to speak with Daughtry prior to him committing. And he told me, the main factor in him ending up at Florida State rather than some of the other schools that recruited him, like Miami, Kentucky, was simply Alex Atkins was at Florida State, and he's built a relationship with him like no other position coach from any other school that's recruiting him. And, this is a guy more of an athletic build at tackle, but he's a true tackle for Florida State. And I think, it might take a couple years for him to kind of develop his body and get in that strength and conditioning program in Tallahassee. But eventually I see him as a quality player.
Real quick, not to get caught up on that, but I think he said something that's important is that, not every recruit is going to be an instant impact, especially in the interior, but he's got the traits that, you put up with a guy like Coach Atkins, he's going to be in 1 or 2 years, he's going to be a guy when he's a redshirt freshman or, redshirt sophomore, that he's going to be a big part of that rotation. So,
and we've seen it already. If you're talented, you will play under Alex Atkins. We saw it last year with true freshman Robert Scott. So the best players are going to play.
Right.
Yep, they are. Going real quick to do a quick recap over the big recruiting weekend. Florida State once again is able to get a lot of targets inside the doors, inside the more there. You're looking at Elijah Pritchett that was there once again. Quashawn Sapp was personally all over him. They did a photo shoot together. You've got Marvin Jones Jr., once again, Nate, he's in Tallahassee. It's a great sign for FSU, but this time he's with Dad, which I think is humongous. He's able to chat it up and just, enjoy the dad talk. We're always around our dad sometimes when they're talking with friends, but this time there's Ron Dugans, there's Odell there. You get the dad involved, and it hasn't really happened a lot either on visits. I think it's a big thing, but you also got Travis Hunter. He's gonna. That's what I love about the kid. Some players, once they've made it, they just kind of dwindle out and they're just not going to compete. But this kid is just consistently competing, Nate, and he shows out once again, and he's having great. He's going 1-on-1 with two. It's going 5-star against 5-star,
and you see why he's the best recruit in the last 5 classes. I've now increased it. I mean,
the 5 classes
went up.
Yes, I mean, seriously, man. You look at this kid, and you go good on good, elite on elite, and he's just on another level. Like just his abilities, it's insane. So, yeah, man, you can't really say much more about that kid. That he just continues to go out there and he loves the game of football. You can tell that he loves football, and he wants to embarrass people. And I can't wait to see that in Tallahassee.
So how many games is it going to take during his senior season for them to upgrade him to the number 1 prospect?
I think he would end up there anyways, but with the kid that is committed to the quarterback talking about skipping this year, and that's going to move him out of the class, so that's going to put him at number 1. Quinn Ewers, whatever, how you pronounce his last name, talking about enrolling at Ohio State supposedly, so that puts Travis at the number 1 spot. But I think eventually he was going to earn that. You can't. I get it. It's usually a quarterback, defensive lineman that is the number 1 player. He was on the podcast with Ryan McFadden and Patrick Peterson, and they talked a little bit about how very rarely are defensive backs rated as high as he was, and that's why I talked about him and Derwin. Derwin was rated super high too. So, he's the best player in the country, and I think it's just not debatable. When you look at him as a football player, he's the best football player in the country. Regardless if he's a wide receiver or defensive back, he's the best. Give the kid his due.
Going back to Marvin Jones Jr. real quick, Nate, you were kind of in contact with senior there, Mr. Shadetree, a little bit, but we're trying to think of something before the Notre Dame game to maybe have on senior. We'll see. But going back to once again, you got Junior on campus, and I want to bring up the picture here that the whole staff took of him, but kind of speak about maybe with some things that you were talking with senior about, and what it means for him to be on campus once again in Tallahassee. Big time target.
No, it's just follow the visits. Florida. There's a lot of people that think that FSU just can't get him because of where they're at as a program, and when you compete with Alabama and Ohio State, and Florida State's still going to compete with them. One, because of the family tradition and all the guys that have come from that family that play at Florida State, and 2, they're just doing a hell of a job recruiting him. And there's a need at the spot. As we just heard from Chris, when they dial in on you, they dial in and they make it known how important you are. So, the big thing with them is that, it's not about who you are family-wise. They're recruiting him as an individual, and that's the most important thing, I think, with this kid, is that he's his own person, and they're not relying on the family relationship, so to speak, in order to try to land him. They're not trying to talk about legacy and all that kind of stuff. It's you are who you are as a player, and we need you. So, we need what you can bring to that table. We need it. So, you're vital to the class. So,
yeah, exactly. And to your point, I believe it was Zach Blostein from Noles 247 that had the quote, but Marvin Jones said something like, whenever I come to Florida State, they show me more love than anybody. So I think it's big that Florida State's not just relying on that legacy factor, but they're actively pursuing Jones as hard as they can and trying to develop those relationships to get him to Tallahassee.
So arguably the two biggest recruiting weekends this Florida State had over this offseason, he was at. So that says a lot. That says a lot. So
absolutely, it does. Yep. And going back to Elijah Pritchett, Quashawn Sapp told me that he was heavily after him that whole entire trip there. They actually were messing around with one another and actually ended up doing a photo shoot together. I know we'll be able to talk with Sapp and pick his brain on the whole recruiting weekend next week on the show. But that is a big-time offensive line target, big time target. And he's actually visiting Alabama, I think, this upcoming weekend. But
I wouldn't be surprised
there.
I wouldn't be surprised to see a decision, relatively soon coming off that Alabama visit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Real quick, let's jump into some training camp news and latest. Football season is really here. Honestly, first day for the Saints, I believe, was yesterday for Jameis Winston. The whole competition now begins between him and Taysom Hill. I can't believe I'm saying that. There's a competition with Taysom Hill to be the starting quarterback, but here we are in 2021 under Sean Payton. Let's see if he's silly or not. But Jameis Winston showed up in beautiful. I just about said beautiful shape. That just seems a little too much. Maybe I need to tone down the Jameis tweets and everything.
Just say he showed up in great shape, ready to compete.
That's what I meant to say, but I was saying great too many times tonight, so I try to change it up a little bit. Damn it!
That cat is in shape.
Fantastic. I know there was a lot of things here.
He showed up in fantastic shape, ready to compete.
Can you give me one more example of what I could have used? And significant or
no.
Excellent, maybe excellent.
Or he came in
ready to work.
Top flight.
Should have said his body is sculpted, man.
Yeah,
it really has though.
Out there in the New Orleans sun.
No, he really did reshape his body this offseason.
He actually really did. Mm-hmm. And he's been working on it for over a year, though. I mean, this has kind of been a 2-year transformation for him. Going back and looking at whenever he was
let's move on.
When he was when he was training with Whitfield back, getting ready for the Bucks, and having that cookout beer belly it looked like, and then now going to look at him training, it looks he's in wonderful shape. So we'll keep an eye on that competition. Gabe Neighbors was out. Our former Hear the Spear alum was out there. Something's happening. I don't know what's going on, but we're going to keep moving here so we stay steady. Gabe Neighbors had a few packages out wide for the Chargers today. I caught note of that on the Twitter land. So Gabe Neighbors doing some things, going to utilize him in a lot of different ways, I think, this upcoming season, definitely in the red zone. And then this is the biggest story of the day. Kelvin Benjamin was seen walking from the beginning of the practice today for the Giants, was seen walking away during the practice. Supposedly there was reports that he and the coach kind of went at it there and immediately left, and they're saying that he's been cut from the Giants organization. So that's a story that I'm sure we'll keep developing and hearing more on. But, I was really pulling for him. He just recently made a position change over from wide receiver to tight end, and I thought he showed up in pretty good shape. We were able to chat with him at Kenny Shaw's camp, and he said he was getting into some training immediately after that, and he looked like he was in pretty good shape. So I wishing him the best, but it's hate hearing that. I wanted to bring this up real quick. Dalvin Cook absolutely disrespected Austin. Your Vikings, Dalvin Cook.
It's a shame.
I mean, I was livid at this. It's so idiotic. I'll bring it up here. This is from the Madden Twitter, but they ranked, they're releasing their rankings every year, but they ranked Dalvin Cook as a number 4th running back on their list. Christian McCaffrey at number 97 overall. You've got Derrick Henry, number 2, 96 overall. Nick Chubb with above Dalvin Cook at number 3, and then you got Dalvin Cook number 4 and Alvin Kamara. I think this whole top 5 is completely BS in my opinion.
I don't think it's that far off. I think you put
it's the right 5, just the wrong order.
Yeah,
wrong order. The wrong order. Yeah,
I think you put Dalvin at 3, Kamara at 4, and Chubb at 5.
I would, just because McCaffrey was hurt most of last year. Yep. I don't think you can give him the benefit of the doubt as a top 2 running back. To me, it's Henry, Cook,
yep,
Chubb, McCaffrey, Kamara.
I don't know. I think you got to see how McCaffrey bounces back as he was.
Yeah. No, I agree, but you can't put him number one after missing, 11 games last year?
Right. Well, I mean, he's that good.
Yeah, but Dalvin had 1,500 yards and 17 touchdowns in 14 games.
Yeah.
I think.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
I really think that, in my opinion, McCaffrey, Henry, Cook, and Kamara are on tier 1.
Yeah.
And then the other guys are, I think, would be tier 2. I think those 4 guys are head and shoulders the top 4 running backs in the NFL.
And I don't know about Jacobs at 8 either. I think that's a little bit high.
No, I think that's a little bit.
I think it's a little high.
It's a little bit of projecting. He really hasn't done much. Yet.
Other than that, it's the right 5, just the wrong order.
And
I'm glad Saquon Barkley wasn't in there in the top 5. I know he didn't play last year. Man, oh my God, thank God.
I don't know if I put Ezekiel Elliott at number 9, but
he didn't have a great season last year.
No, but
I think that's a respect one. Kind of like how JJ Watt was a 94. It's just a respect thing.
Yeah, don't get me started. Wait, JJ Watt or TJ Watt?
JJ. You didn't see that?
TJ Watt was disrespected.
JJ Watt had a 94, he was a 94 overall.
Oh, yeah, that's a little. I mean, that's almost as close to where his brother was.
Or 95.
They weren't even on the same level. That is so stupid.
Before we move on to the offensive, where do you think Cam falls if he didn't get hurt?
Ooh.
I think in the range of Ezekiel and Mixon.
No.
Outside the top 10.
I think by the end of the season.
Yeah, he might work his way up.
Yeah.
To start, he would have been like an 81, 82 heading in.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Yeah. I'd say top 20, top 15, something like that.
I think Madden does top 12 to 15.
Madden doesn't show a lot of love to second-year guys like Justin Jefferson wasn't an 88 plus after he had a top 5 season last year. I'm not saying he's a top 5 receiver, but he had a top 5 season.
No, he's a top 5 receiver, dude.
Listen, I'm not going to argue, but I'm just saying it's to have him at least not top 12 is kind of disrespectful considering the season he had.
Yeah, no, I think it's silliness. Nick Chubb, someone's got to be fired. I'm calling for someone's head immediately after that. That is so silly. All right, real quick, last thing here. We got people asking for the offensive breakdown, so we're going to get to that quickly. Last little note here, some newsworthy stuff. The booster luncheon for FSU, and also the fan day, Florida State's fan day has been canceled. Sorry, because of COVID-19. They're wanting to keep players safe, I think, for majority, so then they can get ready for camp successfully. But you just got to hope this isn't a sign of things to come. I don't think it is. I'm trying to stay optimistic about it.
Get your vaccines, idiots.
Whoa, yeah. Austin's coming out.
I'm not going to read the comments.
Yeah, Austin. We'll put Austin up here real quick. Go ahead and say that again for us, Austin.
Said it once. You heard me. You heard me. I don't need to repeat it.
I'm just hoping. No, back all that kind of talk. I'm just, praying this is, just a safe measure by Florida State, which I hope it is a smart one. And we're heading into the football season just fine because you're about to go into a stadium with 80,000, Nate.
And I've already spent a lot of money on tickets. Just come on, man.
Let's go, man. Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, you just got to think, if a player going into fall camp, if a player gets COVID, there's a good chance they'll probably end up missing that first game just because of however the protocols are. So I think, limiting the amount of exposure they have to fans and things like that, it just gives you a better chance of having everybody fully available once that Notre Dame game rolls around. So, I mean, it's a smart decision. Yeah, it sucks for the fans, but I mean, it's just something we got to deal with until, hopefully this blows over.
Yeah. And you got to think, you'd rather take that than, season being canceled or, your starting quarterback isn't able to play or both quarterbacks.
Well, we saw the issues that COVID gave FSU last year. So I think they're going to be extra cautious and, it's probably the smart way to go about it.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into it, gentlemen. Let's get into some offensive position breakdowns for fall camp. We'll spend a little bit of time on this. I say we go ahead and start off with quarterbacks. That's the best one. big time storyline heading in this one, and Nate's going to probably go at it with me. I can't wait, but we're just doing the breakdown right now. You got Jordan Travis, who, saved a lot of the season last year, showed a little bit more arm than we might have thought. He wasn't really expected to really play until, you jot out, James Blackman, and then you've got Tate Rodemaker, and then you got Jordan Travis out there, and he plays well. We've learned that he is a guy that has to be on this offense. He's got to get snaps this upcoming season. He's got to take snaps in every game. But then, boom, you bring on a transfer with Mackenzie Milton, absolutely lit it up at UCF, a guy that is extremely, extremely talented, very smart, knows his film, makes his reads, and can throw the damn football. This is going to be a fun one to watch, this storyline, gentlemen. I mean, there's so much to look at it. You look at the depth behind you, Chubba Purdy and Tate Rodemaker, too. And I think it's going to be a fun camp. And
it's going to be a great
fun
camp.
What do you think? What do you think, Nate?
It's going to be a great fun camp.
What do we got?
It's going to be Milton, Travis, Purdy, Rodemaker.
That's not a breakdown. No,
that's why we talked about this. If you look at the screen real quick.
So I mean, honestly, dude. So I understand Travis. Yeah, he's worked his ass off and improved as a passer, but at the end of the day, we saw what we saw in the spring game. We saw the difference of what Mackenzie Milton can bring to the offense, and there's question marks at wide receiver, which we'll get to. You need a guy who can throw the ball and open up the offense, and I think that while Travis is a talented athlete, he's not a full-on quarterback in this offense. I think he will max himself out. I think he's maxed out in terms of what he can do as a quarterback. Is my opinion. I think he's an offensive threat. I think, you get the ball in his hands, you let him make some plays, you give him, X amount of snaps at quarterback, you let him up in the slot, put him in the backfield, you let him do what he can do with the ball in his hands. But the starting quarterback is Mackenzie Milton.
What do you have on here for us, Austin? I like this. Austin contributing here, getting some stuff on the screen for us.
That's awful.
I wish
David Hill's been terrible with these position rankings.
It's awful.
And he put Florida State's quarterback room at 11th.
That's awful.
11th.
Sam Howell for sure, number one.
Yeah, and Clemson too.
I don't get the DJ Ugalele hype. Kind of the same thing where talked about with Chris is like he's got a hell of an arm, can make can throw the ball a country mile, but I think there's some question marks with his accuracy. Miami, Derek King's coming off a knee injury. You have a freshman after him. Boston College, you have the kid that came over from Notre Dame. You have Cunningham's returning for Louisville, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Pitt, Pickett, whatever. I mean, Virginia. Who the hell is who's Virginia's quarterback? I don't even know.
Who's Wake Forest quarterback?
I think he got hurt.
NC State's still Bailey Hockman, right?
Yeah. No,
he's gone now. He's on to his next establishment.
No,
I believe JUCO, if I'm correct.
No, he's at Middle Tennessee State.
Same thing to me, to be honest.
So,
sad. Sorry, Middle Tennessee State fans that are in here.
No, I mean
they're not.
I think that people will be pleasantly surprised if FSU can be average at offensive line with what the quarterback can do in this offense.
I would probably have them in that 4 or 5 range, just because you don't exactly know what you're going to get from Milton yet. You're hoping he comes back with that production that he put up at UCF.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I would be a little cautious, but definitely optimistic.
Worst case,
for sure.
top half.
Yeah, I mean,
11 is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, that was silly.
Has he made a running backs list yet? I know did he just do a total skill position?
I'll look while we keep talking about it. And for the record, I'm with Nate. I think Mackenzie Milton's going to be the guy against Notre Dame. But I also think it was important to bring Travis bring both of them to media day. You can't not have last year's starting quarterback go to media day. It's going to be a competition. They're going to talk about it like it's a competition. But if spring was any indication, Milton's going to pick up this offense every single day, better and better every single day. I think by Notre Dame, it's Milton's.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is something that was talked about all offseason, but I don't think this is going to be the case. I think there's going to be packages where he might be seeming like he's a wide receiver. He might be at a slot. I think Norvell and Dillingham are going to get really tricky with how this works. I think it is going to be – I don't think it's going to be a solidified kind of – I don't know. I feel like it's going to be
Logan,
two-quarterback kind of threat to me.
Just stop dancing around. You think Travis is going to be the quarterback, and you're wrong.
I think Jordan Travis will have the best fall camp.
So, Dustin, it's your turn.
I was just going to say, you guys have put a lot of great stuff out there, but I just think, for this one, the quarterback with the best arm is going to end up winning the job. And in my opinion, that's Mackenzie Milton. And he also has a ton of experience at the college level, has led winning teams. And I just think he brings a lot of factors, maybe outside of his performance, that could lift this Florida State offense because of his maturity and what he's been able to learn throughout his long college career. And that's what Florida State needs right now. They're still nurturing this offense under Norvell and instilling those strong foundations. I think Milton helps you be more productive as a unit than possibly Travis will. But at the same time, I think we're going to see some packages that have Milton and Travis on the field together. I mean, they're not just going to sideline him. He's going to be utilized because, what he brings. He's a heck of a runner. He can still throw the ball. And we've seen him a little bit out wide, not really a lot. But so I think, they're going to have a bunch of different things that they can do with him to still get him some burn, even if he's not the starting quarterback.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if you see jet sweeps to Travis and he throws it at some point in the season. I'd be surprised if you see them both in the backfield at the same time, and the defense is trying to guess who's getting the snap.
Yeah, put him in the slot, let him get in the open field.
There's going to be things. Yeah. Norvell's too good of an offensive mind to not make something happen for Travis, as good of a playmaker as he is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. His offense is going to be extremely fun to watch in that backfield. And do y'all think, real quick, do you think Mike Norvell names a starter? Will he name a starter before the Notre Dame game? Or do you think he'll run into it?
I think
so.
I think he does the week of the practice.
Yeah, I would say week of the first game. He's not going to do it early in camp.
It really just depends how fall camp goes.
I don't think Norvell is a chicken shit like Willie Taggart was. So
I'm not saying he's that, but I don't see him tipping his hand either.
Nah,
he's very calculated with his decisions.
Yeah. If we get something, I think it'll be game day. Like we come out game day, we find out Mackenzie Milton starting. I think it's gonna be one of those.
I think it is too. You got a fresh defensive coordinator. Not going to say he's not well experienced, but at Notre Dame, I think they're going to be as tricky as they can be. It's going to be tricky. It's going to be a tricky offense already. You're looking at two potential starting quarterbacks that can go out there and can play. You got one that can throw, one that can ball and run. It's a beautiful tandem. It just depends if you can work it out that way. And you've got an offensive line that's improving. Let's move on here to running backs. To stay steady on it, gentlemen, I think we all kind of can agree here on who the starter will be and who I think will have a really solid fall camp, and that's just Sean Corbin. Played a lot last year, kind of some inconsistencies here and there, but I don't think he was fully kind of shaken off of his knee injury that he suffered at Texas A&M. And we got to see some flashes near the end of the season. I think he's your turnaround, running back number one heading into Notre Dame. And I think, Toa Philly's still that number two, but he's going to push Corbin quite a bit in this fall camp. Toa Philly's going to have some flashes. And then really after that, 3 and 4, I'm interested to see. That fight for number 3 between Ward and DJ Williams is going to be exciting to watch. This running back room has a lot of potential.
I look at it like you look at it like Corbin and Toa Philly. They're your, they're your lightning guys. They can, I think what we saw in Toa Philly, I think, that's really promising. But they're also guys that are really good at what Norvell likes, and it's getting involved in the passing game. So, you look at their versatility. I think that Williams is going to be their workhorse. I think he's going to be more of that, inside the 20, get you your tough yards. I think Ward is going to take some carries. We've already talked about him. In spring and also some this offseason, I think he's going to take some carries this year. A lot of people thought he was the best running back in spring. I think you look at a guy like Corey Rennie, who is going to be used, I think, a little bit like Jordan Travis. You can line him up in slot, jet sweeps, that kind of stuff. I think you got to utilize that speed. And so you got 4 or 5 guys who I think you have different skill sets that can do things that are going to help this offense.
Yeah, like you said, I think the talent in the running back room is very diverse because you have different guys that are good at different things. So the coaching staff, they're going to have a lot of different ways to be able to work with these guys. And obviously, one thing I wanted to bring up is Toa Philly. Obviously he was very good for Florida State last year. Had 37 carries, 356 yards, 9.6 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. So it was a promising true freshman season from him from what we got to see. But my question for you guys, does it concern you at all that he didn't really bulk up that much this offseason because he's still sitting there a little small for what I think you would want to see out of a college running back at 185 pounds?
I'm not necessarily small.
I'm not entirely concerned too much. I understand that. The biggest thing for my concern is him staying healthy throughout a full game because that was something that hindered him last year. I just hope there's just a little bit of extra meat that Coach Storms can put on him. That's my only worrisome for him. But I know how talented he is. I think overall in that room, he's overall the most talented back, maybe from what we've seen with Ward. But I don't know. I think it's a good point, though, D-Lou.
Well, we talk about – sorry to interrupt, Nate, but we talk about how small, a guy like Corey Wren is, per se, and he's only weighs 2 pounds less than Lawrence Toa Philly.
I just think Toa Philly is what he is. His body structure is not going to be someone – he's not broad-shouldered. He's a lean guy. I think, if anything, he can work on – his lower half. I think that's what he's got to get a little bit bigger at. But he didn't take a lot of big hits last year. I just think he's Jermaine Thomas, like, a little bit taller, kind of lanky. He's not going to be a 215-pound running back. It's just not going to be him.
So a question here from Trenton. Will a back have 1,000 yards? I don't think. To me, no.
I don't think so.
With the stable that's back there, and you've also got Jordan Travis, who's going to be utilized a lot. I don't see it happening, in my opinion.
There's going to be a lot of rotation.
Yeah, it's a by committee room.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you guys. But yeah, I think the biggest thing I want to see some Treshaun Ward to me, just to have some fun with it, because the things that we've heard the last couple of seasons, and we haven't really gotten to see it, but actually hearing these things and then seeing it in person whenever Mike Norvell opened up some of these spring scrimmages, he is the real deal. He is the real deal. And FSU fans, I think, are going to like seeing him, and we'll see if he has a few packages in store.
So since he stepped on campus, there's been a lot of people who have thought he's the most natural runner on the team.
Yeah,
he's just got to understand the offense. He's earned a scholarship, and he earned a lot of praise in the spring for a reason. So he's going to play, and he's going to play meaningful minutes.
Yeah, that's scary to think of, because if you're heading into that third or fourth quarter, and you can throw out a fresh Ward. You like to hear that. Let's move into some wide receivers here, gentlemen. The number one name that you think of when we talk about it is Andrew Parchment, the Kansas wide receiver transfer. Man, oh man, that is a guy that's going to be explosive to make some plays down the field. You think of Mackenzie Milton already immediately with that tandem that we might be able to see in the future. But, this wide receiver room still has some veterans on it, but I think is going to be highlighted by the young newcomers on board. Let's name 2 of them right now, D-Lou. We've got Joshua Burrell, and you've also got Malik McLean, who played about every single snap. We talked about it enough, but he played so much during the spring. He's put on some pounds too. I'm definitely excited about this younger corp, and there's still some other youngins too to look out for.
Yeah, Malik McLean is insane. At least he was during the spring. He had some outstanding spring scrimmages, and we saw it in the spring game with some of those connections. with Milton. He's got that long body on the outside, and he can go up and just get it over guys. And he's only a true freshman right now. Obviously, being here for the spring really benefited him moving into the fall because he's already got some experience working with these quarterbacks. And I just think, for him, the sky is the limit. The dude has a ton of potential, and it's just going to come with hard work and putting it together. But I think he's primed to have a good fall camp. And I think I said it, was it last podcast or 2 weeks ago? I think there's a good chance we'll see him running with the ones during fall, just because of what he brings to the table.
I think when you look at it, you have Helton who can line up inside and outside. So I look at it first, inside I have Helton, I have Robinson, I have Douglas, and I have Burrell. That's kind of like your slot guys. Outside, I think game one you still see Ontario Wilson get a start. But behind him, I have the two young kids. I have McLean and I have Portier. And out the other side, I have Parchment. A guy that no one talks about that the staff is excited about is Williamson. Last year he played a little bit as a freshman, coming off of ACL. But, missing Hill, not getting him in. It looks like he's not going to come in this fall. Is a major blow because he would have been another immediate contributor. But if the light is ever going to turn on for Jordan Young, it needs to be this season because, he's got the ability, but it just hasn't clicked for him. So I think he gets passed up by McLean on the outside. So,
and you mentioned Helton briefly, but I think him, you could tell he wasn't fully healthy or fully confident in his knee last year. I think having a full off season, full camp, I think that's going to be huge for him. I wouldn't be surprised at all if you see him make big plays. Brian Robinson didn't get a lot of burn last year. I wouldn't be surprised if you see him step up. There's a couple guys that were either banged up, weren't really confident, didn't know the playbook. That I think you really see step up this season.
And a couple of guys I've talked to, Helton's looked really, really good in 7-on in this offseason. So, looks like he may be past that middle part of that knee injury. So, they're going to need him to get back to that.
Definitely.
That form.
I think it's good to kind of have those safety nets and Keyshawn Helton and Ontario Wilson, guys that have been playing in college for a couple years. And, they haven't exactly blown anybody away, but they have produced a little bit. Hopefully that can become a little bit more consistent moving forward. And the same thing with Andrew Parchment. I think he's a part of that safety net too. So maybe, early on you rely on those guys, and then the young guys you'll start to see throughout the weeks in fall camp who was coming along and who was stepping up. And we'll see who gets into the fold.
A few of the comments latest have been talking about Brian Robinson, who also had a nice spring too. Was a good red zone threat in a few scrimmages we were at, and also played well and to the spring game. And then I think we haven't talked about it enough too, but Ja'Kai Douglas, who played a ton during the spring too, and I've heard he is one of the fastest on the team for what someone inside the program has told me, which is pretty interesting. They even told me you have to watch out. I don't know if he's the solidified fastest. I still think Corey Wren is, but they were telling me that Ja'Kai Douglas is extremely fast.
He was taking reps with the ones in
spring. Guy telling you that
he was
going to start?
No.
Yeah.
No, that's what you're always going to use if it's something that you don't agree with. It's going to be so who's telling you that about Jordan Travis. But there's a lot of, if you think about it, this is a jam-packed wide receiver room. It just stinks though you don't have Dustin Hill on board with it.
I don't know if it's jam-packed, but I look at it like this offense is reminiscent.
I think there's
a
lot.
2009 FSU.
A lot of what? Sorry, Nate.
A lot of talent at wide receiver.
There's a lot of talent, but there's not a lot of production.
There's not a production yet. I think this
talent doesn't mean shit.
Well, I'm saying no. Well, production, but I'm saying as depth right now, you feel pretty nice with it. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of that.
I think a Helton and a Wilson can be guys like Taiwan Easterling. Guys that can get you plays when you need it. No, they're not a Rashad Green, and Florida State needs that guy, that elite guy, but I think that you can lean on those guys that can make the plays for you. So, Parchment's got to be that guy that FSU thinks he can be. in order for this offense to move.
I mean, with Parchment, a lot of people were talking about last year's stats. I mean, he only had 200-something yards. That season before, he had almost 900 yards, 7 touchdowns. And last season, Kansas only threw for 1,300 yards as a team.
Yeah,
quarterback was atrocious.
They were terrible.
Horrible quarterback play.
Like, to see him with a quarterback like Milton's caliber, which we're assuming is going to start, I think it's going to be huge for him to just have that arm, have solid quarterback play for the first time and probably forever for him.
Yeah, and like you said, Nate, he needs to be the guy that comes in and really takes the top off of defenses. And one thing that I've really noticed, and Logan, you brought it up a couple times, but this guy has been working. We talked about him working out with Dalvin Cook earlier this offseason, and we've heard good returns so far from him working with current players in 7-on-7s. So he seems really motivated to come in and have an instant impact for Florida State. He's not just here to be here. He's here to make a statement.
Nate, Brian says you're sleeping on B-Rob. You're
I'm
making
not
a big
sleeping on
mistake.
B-Rob at all. I think that he's going to be a guy that plays a lot of minutes, man. You know,
we're just blaming you on it. We're probably
That's
still to
fine.
blame, but we're going to blame you on it. Honestly,
I remember
I'm
last
married, I'm used to
year.
it.
Last year he was getting a ton of rave reviews, and he had that ankle injury that popped up in fall camp, and really it
Set
just
him back.
Yeah, it hurt him for the rest of the year. He could never get into that rotation. So, now that he's healthy, hopefully that talent comes out and blossoms.
So
Absolutely.
I look at tight end. I'm going to keep this moving. I look at tight end at like two positions in that room. I look at guys who are going to be your true real pass catching threats, and then you look at like the guys that be your blockers, your guys that can still go out and catch the ball. So I look at it like I think Kim McDonald's your solidified number one. I think you have Wilson as your number two, but I think he's going to be the primary blocking guy. I think Preston Dango showed enough as a walk-on that I think, but he's another blocking guy. I look at Rector and Gross as guys that can come in and be the pass catchers. But one guy I'm keeping an eye on is Jackson West. While he's a freshman, athletically he's very gifted, running with the wide receivers, and was having a really strong spring until he hurt himself. So, you look at this room. Yeah, there's a lot of bodies there. But I think this is a position group that is broken into two different segments. There's not one guy that specializes in both. And by that, I mean being a true pass catcher and a blocking threat. Not saying that they can't block, but, that true all-around tight end. And so I think that you look at this room, and I think I think people are not looking at this position and what they could possibly do in the offense. So I think Cam could have a solid year. I really like, Jackson West. I like Jordan Wilson. Again, another upperclassman, a big body guy who can has a lot of experience. So I like the tight end room. I'm interested to see how Norvell uses all those guys.
Yeah, it really feels like the tight end room is kind of flying under the radar a little bit. Everyone sees Cam McDonald, but then they kind of look at the guys after that list and like, that's not really an impressive group of guys. But like you said, Nate, I feel the opposite. I think Jordan Wilson is going to come back from that Achilles injury and he's going to really contribute for Florida State on that offense. Like you said, probably more of a blocking role. And then after that, I mean, it's just whoever steps up. We saw some flashes from Rector last year. Daniel had some flashes. We'll see if Jackson West can get in that mix. There's just a ton of different guys in that room, and there's going to be a lot of competition in the fall.
Yeah, no, people are commenting about Jordan Wilson. It was all over our Instagram about how gigantic Jordan Wilson looks, and I think it's absolutely accurate. Been around him a few times in person. That is a big boy, along with Jermaine Johnson. But this is huge, and for him to be fully back healthy after his injury and be good to go for this fall camp, it's going to be fun to watch. We didn't get to see him in the spring. It's going to be really fun to watch this fall camp and cover that, because I'm interested to see if he makes a few surprises more than maybe just in the running game. And moving to a pass threat. We'll see. I just interested to see how quick he is. That's what I really want to know. How healthy is he?
Yeah, I mean, he looks like a defensive end that's decided to play tight end and just kill people.
Yeah, it's a bigger size. I would say about the same size, maybe a little bit more bulkier than Kellen Benjamin was whenever he came to FSU.
They've got him listed at 6'4", 262 pounds.
Yeah,
it's the biggest tight end. Well,
when's the last time Florida State's had a big tight end like that?
Kaz Borowski.
That's literally what I was going to say. But they're different players.
That size.
Because Kaz was more of a receiver.
That size is nuts. So it'll be interesting to watch. But I think that whole room, you got Kobe Gross too, who, is kind of maybe mate, that's a guy that has a chip on his shoulder heading into the season. And I'm interested to see, if he can work in there and get some PT or run into that rotation this upcoming season. That's another big boy. So I like the way these look like tight ends. I'll be honest. These last couple of years, FSU just doesn't feel like they're actual tight ends. These are some tight ends. These are some big, mean, and I was going to say ugly, but I don't want to get clipped on that.
You got to wait for the offensive line for that.
Yeah, we'll move on to the offensive line. Nate loves ugly offensive linemen. Usually means a good thing. They're nasty up front, but Florida State, we talked about it in our concerns going into the season. Is it a major concern for some of these guys? You've got Dylan Gibbons who, transferred from Notre Dame to Florida State. He's going to have his first game against his former team. You've also got, Darius Washington. You got Maurice Smith, who, kind of surprised us a little bit at center last year. And then probably your biggest guy, you're looking forward to seeing this upcoming season on that line is Devontae Love. Taylor, gentlemen, how are we feeling about this O-line going into fall camp?
Man, a lot better than the last couple of years. It's been a revelation to just see how Mike Norvell and Alex Atkins have really turned this room almost, I don't want to say completely around, but they've done a good job of starting to turn around, and it's just going to build once they get this 2022 class in there. And excited to see the next couple steps that they start to take during the season. Just so for you guys, I guess the easiest way to say this, just who's your starting five left to right?
So I have left tackle. I have Robert Scott. So, I actually drew this out. So Florida State's got 15 offensive linemen that can contribute this season. You put a star next to Schrader, how he comes back from the injury. But I got Scott as your left tackle. I got Lucas starting at guard. I got Smith at center. I got Gibbons at right guard, and I got Love Taylor at right tackle. I think that's your best five that you get on the field. And then I have the rotation as backup second team would be I got Taylor at left tackle. I got Bavian Johnson that can play any three of the interior spots. They really don't have a third string center. You look at Estes maybe. And then I have Zane Herring as a guy that I have him slated as a backup guard. And then, I would not be surprised to see a guy like Willis or passed up a Darius Washington. Just because of I think you look at Willis as your left tackle, and I think Washington will slide over to right. But I wouldn't be surprised if Orr, by the halfway point of the season, is past, those guys that have been sitting on that bench for a while, the Ira Henrys and all the Jalen Grosses and all those kind of guys. But you need 10 or 12 guys really to get through a season.
What do you think yours is, D'Lo? Do you feel about the same as Nate and Gree with him?
Yeah, I've got 4 of the 5 guys that Nate has, but mine are a little switched up. So mine, left to right, I've got Devontae Love Taylor at left tackle. I've got Bavion Johnson beating out Dante Lucas at left guard currently. Maurice Smith at center, Dylan Gibbons at right guard, and then Robert Scott at right tackle. And I think the big thing for Florida State, you've got 9 – what is it? If I have everything written down here right, you've got 9 different guys on this roster now that have started at least one game at the college level. So, think back to 2 years ago where this room did not really have any experience at all to what they've progressed to now. It's been some good steps to see.
I was going to ask you, who do you think is going to make the biggest jump on this offensive line and progressing? I think I wanted to
probably
I don't know if
Smith,
he can be
right?
starting.
Yeah, I would say Maurice Smith or Robert Scott.
Yeah,
Smith in
the
particular.
freshman who showed flashes. Now they get a full off season, full weight training programs. They really bulk up their strength. They already showed the flashes. I think they take that big step forward.
I think Scott solidified himself as a left tackle for the team last year.
Yeah.
I can see the interest of putting Love Taylor at left tackle. I think Scott solidified his spot.
So the reason, sorry to interrupt you, but the reason I hesitate at moving Scott over to the left side is just when we were there to watch during the spring game and during the spring scrimmages, they always had him playing right tackle and Darius Washington playing left tackle. So that's why I was kind of assuming whenever Love Taylor comes back, they would just slot him in right there.
I wouldn't be surprised if
either
they
way,
kept Washington at left tackle and they move Love Taylor to left guard. Like that, that wouldn't surprise me at all if that's something they did. If they decide Lucas or Johnson isn't it, which
I think we're in agreement who the top 5 or 6 are.
Yeah.
But they need, Zane Herring was getting some run until he got hurt. If Schrader could come back and contribute, I think they like the progress that Willis has made. If they can get a solid 10-12 and be average this year, we're talking about major leaps from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
I was going to say, overall, I'm just really excited about what Coach he's got a big job ahead for him this fall camp. I don't think it should be extremely too hard for him, but he does have a big job on figuring out who's going to fit where best. But looking back at last year and the progression there was really nice to see. And, you got a quarterback with McKenzie Milton that can throw. And, if you're going to, comment here from Xavier, or not Xavier, but looking at Majamo, he's saying, as long as they give McKenzie Milton time to throw, that's practically all they need. I thought last year they did a pretty good job. There was definitely progression there, but it was just the quarterback's fault. I'm not maybe making the reads on time. The wide receiver wasn't open. Blah blah blah. Jordan Travis kind of would get out of the pocket quicker than maybe he should have, but it's a line play.
One thing we didn't mention either is that you can kick Gibbons out to tackle too. So do you put Gibbons at right tackle and slide Taylor to back into guard, which is his more natural position? I'm interested in see how they figure it out, but I do think that you have 4 starters for sure, pretty much penciled in the battle between Lucas and Johnson for that other guard spot. I think is the battle for the 5th starting spot.
So I think that practically wraps up our full offensive fall camp position breakdown. Unless quick, any last comments, any kind of storylines are looking forward to.
How would you, if you were to give this offense a grade, A, B, C, D, F, where would you put this offense?
I would probably have them in the B- to B+ grade.
I was thinking C+ to B-. There's a ton of talent. Like we've been talking about a ton of talent, just not a lot of production.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they end up being a solid offense by the end of the year. But until we see it, until we see either Milton bounce back from his knee or Travis show improved accuracy and arm strength, then we got to see. Right now, I'll say C+, but there's a ton of talent. There's definitely room to grow.
Yeah, I got the quarterback room as a B. I got running back as B. I put wide receiver as C+ because I just think there's some production question marks there. I've tied in at B. And offensive line I have as a C. So if that offensive line can be average, we're cooking with grease for Florida State.
Things are changing.
No, I mean, I just think that they have some able bodies down. They have a great damn coach. So I think as long as they're average, I think we're going to see this team at least put up some quality points. So
yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, if I'm overall offense versus defense, I'm going into our preview next week. I've got defense at a C- end of the season, and that's very nice saying it. I thought there was a lot of things, a lot of big problems, but I also think going into this new season,
last year
was a D. Yeah, last year was a D.
Man.
Yeah, I mean,
that
atrocious. Yeah,
well, you give it an F. That was an F. That was the worst defense in Florida State history.
It was Dookie. Yeah, it was Dookie.
Yeah, we're not talking about talent-wise. There's a lot of talent on that defense. It was just not. They did not gel. That was the worst defense of my lifetime. Y'all make fun of my age, but that's 42 years of Florida State football. It's far and away the worst defense I've ever seen. Take the field at Florida State.
On the bright side, I will say the coaching staff, from what we've seen, they've done a very good job of addressing how poor that defense played a year ago. They brought in a lot of additions on the transfer market and in that Tribe 21 class to hopefully, I guess I was going to say reload, but what are they reloading? Rebuild that defense, and especially on the defensive line, which that's the unit I would say I'm the most excited to talk about next week. There's going to be a ton of new guys at defensive end.
Yeah, no, the defense is going to be fun to talk about. So we'll be doing that next week when we do the breakdown of every position and including special teams. This is a quick question before we move on to basketball with Austin. He asks here, do you think the NIL experiment will have a positive effect on the play on the field?
It's going to get you better talent. Once you figure out how to circumvent the system, which it seems like Alabama already has, or starting quarterback that's played 0 meaningful minutes is earning 7 figures. Ohio State's figured out how to get their future quarterback enrolling early so he can earn 7 figures in that. So it's going to, once you figure it out and understand how it works, let's just call it what it is. Once you figure out how it works so you don't have to pay your own tuition, how you can circumvent the system and make those big dollars, it's going to get you better players. You're a fool if you think that these coaches at these schools aren't going to try to figure out how to go around the system in order to maximize your earnings.
Let's jump into some basketball here to finish off the pod. Tomorrow is the NBA draft. It's going to be fun to watch and see where Scotty Barnes is going. This is now going to become a yearly thing, it feels like now, for us covering FSU. But, we're going to find out if Scotty Barnes is going top 5. I don't know. Austin, lead us into that discussion. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil things, but he's going 5th to the Orlando Magic. Unless something crazy happens. I talked about – I've already put it – I've already dropped my massive NBA draft mega thread for Chiefs in the Discord.
Did you really? I didn't see that.
Put it in at 3 o'clock. I put in everything I've heard draft wise, and I'll put it for regular Discord members or for Patreon members at midnight. Just based on what I've been hearing, unless a team there's a couple teams that I'm watching that are going to trade up, or at least trying to trade up. Golden State, who has 7-14. Memphis, who just traded up to 10, and then New Orleans, who just traded back to 17. I know New Orleans loves Scotty Barnes. I don't think the fit's great if he was to go there, because you're putting him with Zion, who can't shoot, and Brandon Ingram, who's not a great three-point shooter either. But they really like themselves some Scotty Barnes. But he's going 5th to Orlando. At worst case, he's going 6th to OKC, but I do not see him falling past 5. The Magic love the idea of keeping a guy in state. He played high school, started in Fort Lauderdale, moved to Montverde Academy, played college at Florida State. They like the idea of keeping him in state.
That sucks for him.
It does. I don't
It's a
love
bad
the
fit.
It's a terrible fit. I don't love it. But the Magic have done a lot of homework on him. They've built some new artificial intelligence thing. Yeah, they're all over Scotty Barnes on this one. I could see a team like Cleveland trading back maybe and taking him. That's a player that would fit them really well. But everything I've heard, it's going Orlando's way. Everything else, I will leave for Discord members.
The rest of it is in the Discord. Are we predicting to go? Are we planning to go live on here, or are we just doing a Discord back cave for that coverage?
I don't know. I think maybe just stick to Batcave.
Yeah.
Might be a little bit easier. Might be a little bit more chill.
Yeah, might be able to.
Not saying this isn't, but
damn, all of our viewers on here.
Yeah,
no, but I'm just trying to think. What do you going into last year about Patrick Williams? How confident do you feel in your predictions about Pat compared to Scotty Barnes, though?
Pat,
I feel like last year.
Pat.
Yeah,
I put it in I refreshed people in the Discord. I was saying keep an eye on Chicago, but more for a trade back. I was hearing a lot of Chicago talk, but I thought I don't think they'd take him at 4. I knew worst case he was going to Detroit at 7 because he had a guarantee from Detroit. He had a guarantee from Detroit for 2 months. But come draft day, Chicago, they feel like they didn't have a choice. They had to take Pat at 4, and it turned out all right for them. He had a pretty solid rookie season, all rookie second team, USA select team. That's really all you can ask for.
Mm-hmm. As a Bulls fan, I love the pick.
He's done really well. He fits that culture really well. Mm-hmm. I think Billy Donovan's going to really turn him into a really good player.
So right now it looks like Florida State, obviously Scotty Barnes is going to get selected, but it looks like probably only one more player as of this time is going to be drafted, and that's Raekwon Gray. So my question for you, Austin, what can my Celtics do to get him in the green and white at pick number 45?
Stay at 45 and pick him.
No.
I'm pretty sure he'll be on the board at 45. He spent a lot of time in San Antonio, not only training, but working out with the Spurs, working out with Devin Vassell, who's obviously a member of the Spurs. The talks have kind of slowed down a little bit. I mentioned it in my mega thread today. The talks have slowed down a little bit on Turk. I still think he gets drafted, but where I'm not too sure. We talked about it last week. Watch out for New Orleans, Boston, San Antonio. But we'll see. I still think he gets drafted, but where I'm not as sure.
Man, I'm telling you, guys got to get into the Discord. Now they got a new feature on here where we can start actual threads too and jump over to actual additional things. So got to get in the Discord. I guess that's where we're going to be running everything. Patreon.com/NoleGameDay tomorrow. On that, it's gonna be fun to watch. I'll be in there listening in, and maybe D-Lou will make an appearance too.
I'm planning to be there.
Awesome, should be fun. Before we end off the podcast this week, I want to mention someone that was very big on FSU Twitter. A kind person. I was actually able to be around him a little bit, but Austin can speak more. But there was a passing of a big FSU fan named Jason, or most people know him as J Mac. And news came out yesterday that he passed. Absolutely wrecked all of Florida State Twitter. It really is a family. There's some bickering back and forth here and there, but that's just how a family does. It's just how it is. But it really hit the Florida State fan base hard. All of us on here knew him on Twitter. I've actually been able to be around him a few times. Didn't really get to, get as close as Austin was, like he'll talk about here. But such a great guy. And, Madison Social is doing a great thing right now. If you go to their website, they're raising money to put a very nice brick near Doak Campbell Stadium for him. And, the fan base has done a great job of bringing in some money and funding that. But it just goes to show, how big, of a person he was for this fan base and was really close with a lot of FSU Twitter. So, Austin, if you wanted to speak a little bit more about him, because I know you were close.
Yeah, last I checked the MadSo page, I think they said 250 people had donated, and it was at 6,200, which is phenomenal. It really just shows you how much he meant to a lot of people. You are going to find very few better people than J Mac. Jason was the sweetest guy, so nice. He was a big brother to me. I lived with him my senior year of college in Tallahassee. Just phenomenal guy, always checking up on me. Hey man, how you doing? Things going all right? Even after I moved up here to Charlotte, still checking on me constantly. Just such a great guy, and you saw it in the reaction yesterday. I was at work and just happened to check Twitter, just because it's slow. And it was right as Freddie Stevenson was talking about it. And Freddie and J-Mac talked all the time. They ended up being pretty close, and I lost it. That's not something you want to see any day. There's never a good time for bad news, but he's just such a great guy. Such a great guy. And the world's a worse place without him. He's just one of those guys that meant a lot to a lot of people. You know, when I first got to Tallahassee, we were going to trivia nights at Madso and halftime pub for the people that remember that place.
Mm-hmm.
Just such a great guy. I can't say anything that nobody hasn't said already. It's brought a lot of people closer together as well. You know, last night, a lot of us got on a Zoom call. I think it was 15, 20 of us, just shared stories. It was good to catch up. Good to see some faces again that I haven't seen in, 2 or 3 years since I left Tallahassee. I really pray for his mom. Jason had just lost his brother less than a year ago. Lost his dad almost 9 years ago to the day. I feel so badly for his mom. But Madso's doing a good thing. I'm sure it's even more because they haven't updated it for most of the day. And just prayers out for the whole McDowell family. He hosted a podcast for those that listened, Unconquered Era podcast. I hopped over there a few times last season, talk basketball. Just great people. We're really going to miss him a lot.
Absolutely. And I'm sure there will be a get together for the Notre Dame game, some kind of tailgate, appreciating him. I just hated it. It's just not been a great month overall, for FSU fans. It's just not been great. And no, I've been around. I was around him a little bit, but I know Nate, you too, a little bit. I had a few tailgates that you attended.
Yeah, a couple times. I don't know him as intimately as Austin did. But just a genuine dude, man. Was you can tell he enjoyed life. So I haven't had a crown in a while. So I sip a crown at Notre Dame. So, but it's good to show, man. Life's short, y'all. It really is, man. You guys are, mock my age and talk about that a lot, but it's life is very fast and it's very short. You got to cherish the time you have, and it's important to make time to talk to the people that you value. So, whether it's a friend or a family member that you haven't spoken to, time is short. So, reach out, talk to those people that you care about, man. It sucks,
Mm-hmm. It does.
I know, just knowing that it sucks for a guy that, a young dude, but you look at like Austin, who knows him personally, sorry that you're going through that, man. It sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But, I really like that the fact that it looks like that brick's going to be done before the Notre Dame game. So that's awesome for him.
Absolutely.
Yesterday was a rough day. Yeah. Just crying in the back of the store for half an hour. Got home some more. It's
I've lost
tough.
a couple friends, man. I had one friend murdered in Atlanta. I had right after high school, one of my friends, went to Florida State. Passed away. Shit happens, man. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it puts a lot of stuff in perspective.
Ton of perspective.
What's really important.
It came so unexpected too, because I know a lot of people know Drew Howell. He was just talking to him, the night before. Nothing wrong. Just talking about need to catch up, get some drinks. I'm glad I got to saw him when I went down to the spring game in April.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's a memory I always look back on.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of good memories with him. The first time we tried to get him to play golf in Columbus, Georgia, that was phenomenal. One of the funniest things I've ever seen. It was just great at making everyone laugh, and that's a good thing. Is there's only happy memories with people like that.
Mm-hmm. I know. Whenever being around, I was always smiling and joking around, and always taking shots, which I will always be in attendance for, and I always respect that immediately. That someone's having a little fun before games. I have to do it just like him. So our thoughts and prayers are with his family.
Yeah, I did bend to his peer pressure of a shot of Crown. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Austin, do you know of one of his? I don't know if you know any of his favorite artists or anybody that he listened to that we can maybe throw at the end of this podcast. We can think about it once we jump off of here, but we can maybe end off the podcast part of this with the
I'd have to scroll through. I just know he hates Sweet Caroline.
No. So we should not play Sweet Caroline. We will not play Sweet Caroline.
My question, Logan, sorry to interrupt. Can you show that Madison social link maybe so people watching, if they want to go donate, they can do so?
Yeah, absolutely. I can try to find that on here. Should be available.
And for anyone that does want to donate but doesn't have the financial means, please reach out to me on Twitter. I will be happy to. I've already put in a decent amount. But anyone that wants to donate but just doesn't feel like they can, just let me know. I'll be happy to.
Yeah, there's an update here, at least from just 8 hours ago, so earlier in the day, that over 230 people have donated, and it has gone up to $6,200 for the brick, and also the rest of the donations are actually going to be going to the family. And the site that you can go to is madisonsocial.com/JMacFSU, and there you can make your donation. Well, gentlemen, definitely appreciate y'all hopping on here. We'll end off the episode with a song for JMac, and we will see you guys next week for the defensive position breakdown, and we'll be inching closer to fall camp. Appreciate everybody listening, and have a great rest of y'all's week.
Ever since the days of old, men would search for wealth untold. They dig for silver and for gold, and leave the empty holes. And way down south in the Everglades, where the black water rolls and the sawgrass waves, the eagles fly and the otters play in the land of the Seminoles. So blow, blow, Seminole wind, blow like you're never gonna blow again. I'm calling to you like a long lost friend, but I know who you are. And blow, blow from the Okeechobee all the way up to Micanopy, blow across the home of the Seminoles, the alligators and the gulls. Progress came and took its toll, and in the name of flood control, they made their plans and they drained the land. Now the glades are going dry. And the last time I walked in the swamp, I sat up on a cypress stump. I listened close and I heard the ghost of Osceola cry. Blow, blow, Seminole wind, blow like you're never gonna blow again. I'm calling to you like a long lost friend, but I know who you are. And blow, blow from the Okeechobee all the way up to Micanopy, blow across the home of the Seminoles, the alligators and the gulls.